Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to extend a very warm welcome to our esteemed speaker, Ms. Shivani Bhatia, for today's session, and all the faculties and attendees joined us. Deliberations of today's session will focus on the theme Legal Essentials for Growing Business by our esteemed speaker, Ms. Shivani Bhatia. She has done her BA LLB honors from Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University. She did her master's in political science. She has completed her post-graduation diploma in human rights, international humanitarian law, and refugee law from the Indian Society of International Law. Ms. Shivani is a positive and motivated academician with more than 8 years of teaching experience. She is committed to provide conducive learning environment to their students, and today we have the opportunity to learn from her experience. With this, I would now like to request our respected speaker, Mrs. Shivani Bhatia, to share some legal aspects relating to starting an enterprise with our students and faculty members who have joined with us. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Greetings of the day. Today, we are going to discuss about the legal essentials for growing business. It's a very, like today, we have heard about the entrepreneurs and the startups businesses. So it's very important for us to learn about that what are the essentials required to start a business, why we have to study about the business laws and why we need all these, what are all other requirements we need to start a business. So in today's session we are going to study about it, what is a business, what is business law, and other than that we will be going to study that why we need to know about the business laws. Then as per the companies acts, what are the requirements or legal documentations we require to start a business. So I'm going to share one screen with you. So today's topic, legal essentials for growing business. So first of all, we have to study that what is a business. A business is defined as an organization or enterprising entity engaged in commercial, industrial, or professional activities. The term business also refers to organized efforts and activities of individuals to produce and sell goods and services for profit. Business can range from small operations operating in many industries around the world. Business begin with a business concept, that is the idea, and with a name. There are different types of businesses. The first one is the sole proprietorship. Second one is partnership. Third is limited liability company, which is known as LLC. And fourth one is private limited company. We are going to study about that. What are these different types of businesses? First, sole proprietorship business. Okay, so as its name suggests, it's a business owned and operated by a single natural person. There is no legal separation between the business and the owner. The tax and legal liabilities of the business are thus that of the owner. As the name suggests, it's owned and controlled by one single person. Next is partnership. A partnership is a business relationship between two or more people who join to conduct business. Each partner contributes resources and money to the business and shows in the profit and losses of the business. The shared profits and losses are recorded on each partner's tax return. Next is limited liability company. Limited liability company provides owners with limited liability while providing some of the income advantages of a partnership. The profits of limited liability company are shared by the owners without double taxation. The last type is private limited company. A private limited company is any type of business entity in private ownership used in many jurisdictions, in contrast to a publicly listed company, with some differences from country to country. Setting up a private limited company is a popular way to start running a business. Now, next we will be going to study that what is business law or commercial law. Commercial law or business law is the body of law which governs business and is often considered to be a branch of civil law and deals with issues of private law and public law. It also regulates the corporate contracts, hiring practices, and manufacture and sales of consumer goods. It applies to the rights and relations and conduct of persons and businesses engaged in commerce, trade, and sales. Why it is important to know business laws? Why we need to learn about business laws? We are going to study that. It is an important for business owners, managers, and supervisors to understand what rights the business has against other businesses and individuals. A basic understanding of business law can help us to spot potential legal issues, help us to make better decisions, and to know when to seek legal help. If you know if you have knowledge of law, you will be able to handle contracts and legal agreements and be aware about the business rights. Ignorance of law is no excuse. It's a legal maxim which says a person who is unaware of the law cannot escape liability for violating the law merely because they were unaware of the laws. So, in a business, if we say we are not aware about particular laws, it doesn't mean that we will get an excuse from the lawmakers or from the judiciary that the person is unaware of the laws, so we permit him to make mistakes in the business. No, it's not permitted. Ignorance of law is no excuse. I'll give you certain examples, like government has recently introduced GST, goods and service taxes. Okay, so they have removed other categories of taxes, and specifically for the businesses they have introduced goods and service taxes. So the business owner cannot say that I am not aware of about this new tax. No, he has to get that knowledge, and if he'll say I am not aware about these laws or these taxes, he will not get any type of excuse. Another example is labor laws. A child who is below the age of 14 years is not allowed to work in any factory or mine or in any hazardous industry. So it is considered as child labor. A person who is running a factory is employing children in his factory because they are cheap and easily make work from the owner. It doesn't mean that the person will say I'm not aware about the age of these workers, or I'm not aware about the law that below 14 cannot work in factories. So as per the Labours Act, and also as per the Indian Constitution, Article 23, child labor is prohibited. So ignorance of law is no excuse in any business. Now, legal formalities to start an enterprise. There are certain formalities which a business owner has to fulfill before he start his enterprise or a business. So successful startups are the one that are driven by passionate entrepreneurs. We should have a good understanding about the basic laws, rules, and regulations that are applicable for smooth running of the business. Here are some important legal basics that enterprise in India should be aware of before embarking on business venture. These are the legal formalities which a business owner always has to fulfill before starting his business. First is formalizing a business structure and founder's agreement. This is the first and the foremost requirement a business owner has to fulfill. He has to formalize, give the legal entity, give the legal recognition to his business, and then his founder's agreement. Then next one is applying for the business licenses. It's very essential for a business owner. As per his business, he has to apply for the business license. Certain businesses have requirement of getting license, and after that you can run your business. Next one is understanding taxation and accounting law. As per your business, you have to pay taxes, and you must have the knowledge of accounting laws, that how can you which taxes you have to pay, what kind of redemptions you will get under the taxation laws. Next is adhering to labor laws. As you are indulged in a business, you will be having some laborers or employees at your workplace. So as per the labor laws, what are your requirements? Next is ensuring protection of intellectual property. Intellectual property is third kind of like property laws, which says a business person, which covers like copyright, patent, trademark, trademark, which are essentials for a businessman to protect his invention, his business from copying from other person. Next requirement is ensuring effective contract management. Now, other than that, a business person always have to bear certain contracts. So how he has to manage his contract, what kind of laws he has to deal, this topic we will be covering. Next one is details about winding down the business. The last legal formalities a business person should always aware about, that how should he wind up his business, how can he close his business. Now we are going to understand these legal formalities in detail. So number one is formalizing a business structure and founders agreement. It simply depends first of all upon the nature and type of your business, that what kind of a business you are running and what is the nature of your business. So we'll quickly look into the implications for the major business types in India. Like as per the business you are running, what are the legal formalities you have to fulfill. So first business type is proprietorship. If the person is single and solely managing his business, the business will be known as proprietorship. So these are the legal requirements he has to fulfill. Number one, no formal registration required. So under the proprietorship business, there is no need to register your business formally. Next one says not recognized as a separate entity and promoter is personally responsible for all liabilities. See, not recognized as a separate entity means here the business and the person who is running this, they both are not separate entity. They are registered or recognized as a single person, single entity. And the promoter of the business is personally responsible for all the liabilities arising out in the business. Members' liability is limited. Here, the proprietor's liability is limited as per his resources, as per his investment. His liability is up to that only. Number of members required is only one person, because it's a proprietorship, so one person is required to run the business. This business is not transferable. Proprietorship, we cannot transfer it. Tax as individual and based on total income of proprietor. See, the earnings of the businessman here, what he is earning will be considered as his income, and after that, as per tax laws, entire income will be taxed by the tax laws. There is no requirement for annual statutory meetings, no requirement to file annual report with the registrar of companies. And last one, the proprietorship existence is dependent on proprietor. So the proprietorship, this business solely depends upon the existence of the person who is running it. Next business type is partnership. So here in the partnership business, it's always necessary for the business person to register it. But sometimes the laws permit them to registration is optional. But it's not recognized as a separate entity. It is not recognized as a separate entity means here the partners are separate and the business is separate. Promoters are personally responsible for all liabilities. Here, the businessman is also responsible for all the liabilities arising out in the business. Members have unlimited liability. As per their business, they have no fixed liability. As per the requirement, their liabilities are unlimited. Minimum members here are 2, maximum up to the requirement of the business. But minimum to start a partnership business, minimum persons are 2. It's a non-transferable business. Again, partnership profits are taxed as per the slabs provided under Income Tax Act 1961. And the annual statutory meetings here also not required. And under the partnership business, there is no requirement for annual statutory meetings. Next one is limited liability company, which is known as LLP. Here the LLP stands for proprietorship as well, limited liability proprietorship. So it is registered with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs under the LLP Act 2008. This business always registered under the Ministry of Corporate Affairs under the LLP Act 2008. It is a separate legal entity. Here, the business is separate and the persons are separate. The promoters of LLP are not personally liable towards the LLP. Promoters here are not liable for any personal liability. They do not have any personal liability. Business is separate, and then as per the business owners, they have different liabilities. Limited liability to the extent of contribution towards to the LLP. They have limited liability. As per their contribution, they have to be liable to pay their liabilities. Minimum 2 persons are required to start LLP. Ownership can be transferred. Here, the person who is not willing to continue this company, he can transfer his share or his business to some other person. So in LLP, we can transfer our ownership. LLP profits are taxed as per the slabs provided under Income Tax Act 1961. Okay, so they are taxed under Income Tax Act 1961, plus surcharge and cease are applicable. No requirement for annual statutory meetings. Now, they have to file annual statement of returns and solvency and annual returns with the registrar every year, because it's a private entity and they are registered under LLP Act. So they have to show their income and they have to show their returns every year. Tax returns must also be filed annually. Next business type is private limited company. So under this, they have to be registered with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs under the Companies Act 2013. It is a separate legal entity. The promoters of company are not personally liable towards the company. Limited liability to the extent of share capital. They have limited liability. So they have their liability as per their contribution in their business. Suppose they have contributed 40% of their resources, so they have the liability up to that only. Minimum of 1 person required to start a private limited company. Ownership can be transferred by means of share transfer. Again, they can transfer their share. If they do not want to continue under this business, they can transfer their share to some other person. Private limited company profits are taxed as per the slabs provided under Income Tax Act 1961. They have to pay their taxes and they are taxed as per Income Tax Act 1961. Board and general meetings should be conducted periodically. Under this private limited company, they have to conduct their meetings regularly and discuss about their goals and aspirations. They have to file their annual statement of return and solvency and annual return with the registrar every year. Tax returns must also be filed annually. Next requirement is applying for the business licensing. So license is another important requirement in a business. Licenses are integral to run any business. Depending upon the nature and size of business, several licenses are applicable in India. The lack of relevant licenses can lead to costly lawsuits and unwanted legal battles. See, if you are running any business without having your license, then it will raise certain problems in future. Anyone can file a suit against you. Even the government will not permit you to run your business without license. We can take example here. If you want to run a medical store, or if you want to deal with if you want to like make certain medicines, you are in pharmacy, and without obtaining license from the government, you are running this business, you will be in a legal battle. Then business licenses are the legal documents that allow a business to operate, while business registration is the official process of listing a business, along with the relevant information with the official registrar. So here the business license are the legal document. See, license means we will get a permission, we will get permission from the lawmakers or higher authorities to do certain things. Again, similarly, business license is a legal document which gives us permission to officially operate what we want to do. For instance, we can get to know about certain examples, like e-commerce company may require additional licenses like VAT registration, service tax registration, professional tax, etc. While a restaurant may require licenses like food safety license, certificate of environmental clearance, prevention of food adulteration act, health trade license, etc. Third requirement is understanding taxation and accounting laws. Taxes are part and parcel of every business. There are a broad variety of taxes, such as central tax, state tax, and even local tax that may be applicable for certain businesses. Recently, the Government of India launched the Startup India initiative to promote startups and introduced many exemptions and tax holidays for startup and new businesses. According to this initiative, a startup can avail income tax exemption for a period of 3 years. So, if you are starting your new venture, or if you are working under the Startup India plan, you will be getting exemption to pay tax for 3 years. Next one is adhering to labor laws. We have to follow certain labor laws if we are into a business. Adhering to labor laws are integral to every organization, whether it's a small or big enterprise. When you are established as a company and have hired people to work for your organization, you are subject to several labor laws regardless of the size of organization. Laws with regard to minimum wages, gratuity, PF payment, weekly holidays, maternity benefits, sexual harassment, payment of bonus, among others, will need to be compiled with. It is best to consult a legal counsel to access the laws applicable to your startup and ensure that your startup is compliant to the required labor laws. With regard to labor laws, startups registered under the Startup India initiative can complete a self declaration for 9 labor laws with 1 year from the date of incorporation in order to get an exemption from labor inspection. If you are like running your startup and it's a new, you have just started your business, so you have to fill a self declaration form as per the 9 labor laws. And these 9 labor laws applicable are: first is Industrial Dispute Act 1947. Second one is the Trade Unit Act 1926. Third one, Building and Other Construction Workers Regulation of Employment and Conditions of Service Act 1996. Next, the Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act 1946. Next, the Interstate Migrant Workmen Regulation of Employment and Condition of Service Act 1979. The Payment of Gratuity Act 1972, the Contract Labor Regulation and Abolition Act 1970, the Employees Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1952, and the Employees State Insurance Act 1948. So after filing the self-declaration form, the entrepreneur get 1 year exemption under the labor laws inspection if that person will file the self-declaration form. Next requirement is ensuring protection of intellectual property. Intellectual property is the secret source for the most businesses today, especially for tech-centric businesses. Codes, agglomerations, and research findings, among others, are some of the most common intellectual property owned by organizations. Startups can leverage the scheme of Startup Intellectual Property Protection SIPP under the Startup India initiative. For the effective implementation of the scheme, facilitators have been impaneled by the Controller General of Patent, Trademarks and Design. Such facilitators help startups by providing advisory services, assisting in patent filing and disposal of patent application, among other services at minimum charges. See, when we are in a business, suppose we have a factory of making certain goods, certain products. So if we have a special machinery or special technique to make certain goods. So we will be get protection under the patents. Under the intellectual property law, we will get our invention registered under patent. So for a startups, we get protection under the scheme of Startup Intellectual Property Protection, which is SIPP. Such facilitators help startups by providing advisory services, assisting in patent filing and disposal of patent application, among other services at minimum charge. The Office of Controller General of Patent, Design and Trademark control all patents in India, and startups can also be directly e-file their patents. Next is ensuring effective contract management. A contract is required to ensure the smooth functioning of work and is a great mechanism to ensure recourse in case of non-fulfillment of work. If we are into business, we have to file, we have to sign certain contracts. So for it is a basic or necessity for a business owner to learn about contract management. Having basic knowledge about various aspects of contract management can prove to be useful for entrepreneurs. As per the Indian Contract Act 1872, all agreements are contract if they are made by the free consent of parties competent to contract for a lawful consideration with a lawful object and are not expressly declared to be void. Seventh one is detail about winding down the business. How can a business owner can discontinue his business? That is also another requirement which a business person should know. Closing a company is difficult call to make for an entrepreneur. When a startup decides to shut down, all the stakeholders from vendors to employees to customers and inventors need to informed in advance, and the whole process must be properly planned and executed in order to make the exit easy on everyone. From the legal standpoint, there are basically three ways to shut down a startup. One is fast track exit mode, next is count or tribunal route, and third one is voluntary closure. As per the fast track exit mode, if the business owner wants to close his business quickly, he has to go for this mode under which he has to file certain forms provided under the Indian Companies Act. According to that, he has to like fulfill basic requirements and then he can close his business. Next is court or tribunal route. As per the another mode is he can go to the court, file there his case, then he can close his business after informing his partners or to the investors or to his customers. Then as per the court orders, he can close his business. And last one is voluntary closure. Voluntary closure, he doesn't want to continue his business. He'll inform his customers, vendors, inventors, and then he can close his business. Next is one person, one company. Another one person, one company here means proprietor. The business will be known as the proprietorship. So one person, one company. It means one person, one company means a company formed with only one single person as a member, unlikely the traditional manner of having at least two members. So under one person, one company, the person can operate his business solely. OPC is the simplest concept introduced under the Companies Act 2013. The concept has definitely swayed its way from the sole proprietorship. Earlier, we use the term sole proprietorship, but the Companies Act 2013 introduced the new term for the sole proprietorship, which is known as one-person company. OPC under the Companies Act 2013 is a separate legal entity having perpetual succession, which is required to be registered as per the provisions of the Companies Act 2013. So any person who is registered, who wants to operate one person company, he has to first register himself under the Companies Act 2013. There should be one person who will be running this company, and they have to follow all the provisions which are mentioned under the Companies Act 2013. The very essential of an OPC is that the member and the nominee has to be a resident of India, which means that they stayed in India for more than 128 days during the immediately preceding 1 year calendar. So the first and the foremost requirement for the one person company is that the person should be an Indian. After that, if the person suppose came from outside India, so he has to stay in India for 128 days preceding 1 calendar year. Now, the characteristics of one person company. It should be a single ownership. No other person, no two persons can run one person company. It is solely one single person who will be running this business. No sharing of profit and losses. It's obvious that if one person is running this business, so he cannot share his profits with anyone, he cannot share his losses with anyone. It's one man's capital. The person who is running the business will be investing and raising the capital of the business. Unlimited liability. The owner of the business has unlimited liability towards his business. He has to run his business. He has to bear all the losses. He has to bear all the profits, raising his share, raising his resources. It's entirely his responsibility. There are less legal formalities in one man company. In a one person company, there are like less legal formalities as compared to other types of businesses. If it's a if it's a one person company, it means the one man is controlling, so the results are effective. There is no interference of any other person. The one man can take quick decisions under his business, and he can take over all the proceedings of his business. No legal distinction between the proprietor and the business. See, it's originated from the sole proprietorship, so the proprietor and the business has the same identity. Similarly, the one person company has no legal distinction between the proprietor and the business. Next, advantages. What are the advantages of one person company? It says, first, it's easy formation and closure. It's easy for any person to get registered himself as one person company under the Companies Act 2013, and he can form his company easily. And if he wish to close his company, he has to again follow the norms as provided under the Companies Act. So it's easy for the single person to start his company and to close his company. Next, flexibility in operation. As single person is running this business can be like, it is easier for the owner to operate in the business, as well as he's flexible to work as per his requirement, as per his knowledge. He can work as per his timings. Least record keeping. As we know, if we are running a business, we have to keep records, we have to maintain books, we have to maintain our accounts. But in one person company, it is easy way to run the business, as well as they have to maintain less records as compared to other business. Simple taxes and accounting. In the business, we have to pay taxes, but in one person company, the person is free, has to pay simple taxes. The simple way they have to maintain their books, simple taxes they have to bear. Deductible business losses against personal income. As one person is running this business, so the entire profits or the entire income he is generating, we are taxing that income only. And the business losses are also deductible from that income only. We In other businesses, there are different modes for bearing the losses, but in one person company, the person here is easily bear his losses from the income which is raised from the business only. As there is one single person, he can make quick decisions and he can control his business according to his wish. As per the new, if we go through, if we have learned so many things from this COVID. Okay, so the entrepreneurs or the new business persons have flexible mode of working, as they have single control over the business. They have launched new technologies, new methods of approaching their customers, dealing with their businesses. So if there is single person, they can make quick decisions, as well as they can control their business as per their wish. What are the disadvantages of this type of business? As we have advantages of any business, we have disadvantages also. No legal separation. As the business and the proprietor, they are considered as one legal entity, so they have to bear, the person is responsible for each and every loss or any negligence which in a business has been raised. The person is liable, as the business and the proprietor is here one single legal entity. Business income reported as regular income. See, there the proprietor and the business is considered as single person. We have legally they are recognized as one person, and the income or the profits which a business owner is earning will be considered as income. So it will be considered as disadvantage because his business income is considered as his regular income. There is no separation between his business income and his regular income. Difficult to raise capital. As one person is running this business, it is difficult for them to raise their capital. The person has to invest in their business. It's not easy for any person to run their business without investing capital. So if they required more capital, they have to raise the capital. So they have to issue their shares, take loans from the bank. So it is very difficult for one person to raise the capital if it is required. Harder to sell business. If the person wants to sell his business, one person company has this major disadvantage. It is very difficult for the owner to sell his business. Limited resources. As one person is dealing in the business, it has limited resources. They have only limited capital to invest in. They have no, see, if one person is working in the business, they do not apply other creativities in the business. So they have limited resources in the business. They cannot raise, or sometimes the owner is has certain fear in the mind to introduce or to opt for new technology or new methods in the business, because he is not, sometimes they are not exposed, as per they are not exposed to the new technology, or they are so old school, they do not want to opt for the new method. So they have always limited resources. Next is unlimited liability. One person is running the business, he has unlimited liability in his business. He has to bear everything. If he's earning profits, it goes into his pocket. If he's facing losses, he has to bear losses. If he has to raise the capital, he has to took that burden. If there is any legal battle, he has to face that also. So he cannot transfer his obligation to any other person. He is only responsible for everything in his business. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, really an enriching session. So now I would like my students that any students, if you have any questions related to legal essentials for growing a business, you can put up your questions in a chat box. Yes, students, you can put up your questions in a chat box. Ma'am has gone through various aspects related to from very basics to one person company, which is a very important aspect. So if you have any questions, you can please put up your questions in a chat box. This last 10-15 minutes for your question answer session round. We are waiting for your queries. I think ma'am, student has understood very well. That's why they are not raising any question. Uh, in today's session, one of the student, he has raised a question, ma'am. Is there any difference between a corporation and a company? Is there any difference between a corporation and a company?
See, company and corporation, these are separate entities. Generally, we have the similar. Generally, we in layman's language, people have no difference. Okay, so generally in layman's language, corporation and companies are similar terms, but sometimes, as per the laws and legal requirements, corporation and companies are different. If we say like corporation is a set when few people came together, and then they have few people came together, and then they start and registered their business, they will be known as corporation. And company is a legal entity which is working under the Companies Act 2013.
Thank you, ma'am. One more question that is related to what is the most important advantage of a one-man company over a sole proprietorship?
See, sole proprietorship and one man company is derived from the sole proprietorship only. But we say the advantage of both are similar, but as it is one man company, the major advantage here is the one man has entire control over his business. He can run his business as per his wish. I'll give you an example. Like last year, we have seen suddenly the COVID-19 has interrupted the functioning of every business. Everything has been stopped, so it's easier for one man person to start his business as per his wish. If it was a partnership business, so the person cannot make decision without discussing another person. If it's a one man company, he opted for the new method, like we introduced this like internet technology for dealing with our customers, for providing services to our customers. So it's easy for one man person to take decision and deals with everything.
Mhm. And ma'am, one important thing, like Companies Act 1956 goes through so many amendments, and the latest one in 2013. So can you throw some lights on this Companies Act 1956 latest amendments and why these amendments took place?
Yes. See, as we says, it's our dynamic society. So we have to go for the changes. We have to accept changes. In 1956, at that scenario, we have made certain laws as per that scenario. At that time, in 1956, our government do not allow us for free trading. We were not allowed for the import or export of goods, because at that time our government was promoting our industrialists, our goods and services made in India. So in Companies Act 1956, there were rules as per that. But in 2013, in 1991, our government provided us free trade, allows our traders for free trade movement, so they can go for import and export also, and they want our traders, our businessmen, to compete with industry, with international market. So after that, they introduce certain taxes, custom taxes they introduce, excise taxes they introduce. So they brought certain changes in 2013, and the major change was introduction of GST, goods and services tax, and other sales tax, services tax. Businessman has to pay. So these are the basic changes as per at present. If we say in 2000 in 2021, where there are major our industries are dependent on import, they are easily getting imports from other countries and exporting our goods. So in Companies Act 2013, they provide foreign how to register ourselves with the foreign market, what require legal documentation is required if we want to trade with other businesses from other countries. So these are the basic changes which were introduced in 2013.
Yes,
Nidhi ma'am, I also have one question. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ma'am, you have mentioned about certain labor laws that is applicable for the startup business, and specifically you have spoken about those 9 laws which you can get an exemption during the first year. And what about the other labor laws? Because apart from that, there are a lot of other labor laws also applicable, like the Factories Act or the Payment of Wages Act, which you didn't mention. So, what about those?
See, ma'am, there are, see that portion is only for the startups. The person who is starting his business, they have to fill that self declaration form, under which specifically government is saying they will get exemption of labor inspection for 1 year. Other than that, there are several laws which a business person has to follow. Like if we say certain labor laws says the workers in the industries will get a proper break. They will, where they are working, there should be proper ventilation so that they can work effectively, proper timings the laws are providing. So these are the basic necessities which under the which are not exempted. If we says I am operating a factory and I'm not providing my workers proper ventilation or proper break for eating, I will not get that exemption. That is why they are not covered under this. So providing workers proper washroom, proper tea break, proper lunch break, medical facilities, maternity benefits. So the businessman is not exempted from these basic requirements which they have to provide their workers. If we talk about their salaries, if we talk about their PF gratuity, these starts from the very initial day when we hire some person. We are not getting these exemptions from government.
Okay, fine. Thank you so much, ma'am. One more question I have, because most of the students here are from the sixth semester. They are in their final year, okay, and they are studying this labor law paper. And like, what future prospects do they have, like after their sixth semester, after doing BBA,
Yes.
specifically in this area?
Okay, so they can like in business management, we are saying business bachelors of business administration kids are pursuing. So they can work in any like company, or if we say they can start working in any like company or on enterprise. So they studying labor laws means, because you have to operate, you are a business student, business administrative student, so you must be dealing with some business, or you will be working for another company. So you have to learn these laws, because these are the basics for running any business. Or if you are working as an employee, you must have these basic knowledge, because awareness should be there. You have to be aware about these laws, like how to deal with contracts. If you are starting your own business, what are the legal formalities you have to fulfill. Now today is the era where the people students, we can say, are very like eager to start their startups initiatives they are taking. So it is necessary for them to learn about what are the legal formalities for them. And the future aspect is like this: they must be aware about these laws, how it will be helping others or other enterprise, or if they are running their own business, how it will be helping them.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, over to you, Nidhi, ma'am.
Ma'am, one question by Deepu Biswas, that can one person company become a member of another private company?
No, it means if you want to collaborate, you have to like make all the things change. One person company cannot be transferred or collaborate with anyone. You have to stop that company, close that company, then you can collaborate with anyone, any other company.
Yes, any other student want to raise any question?
Nidhi, ma'am, I hope you have asked the questions that is there in the question answer session.
I think
There are two questions. I
maybe
think it is
still,
same
if any
question.
student is interested to raise any question. Any question appearing on your side, ma'am?
Ma'am, is it like can one person company become a member of, that has been answered, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And do one person company have an advantage over sole proprietorship if both have unlimited liabilities? That is
No,
all.
this question has not been raised.
Okay.
Which question?
Do one person company have an advantage over sole proprietorship if both have unlimited liabilities?
No, they both have. I have like mentioned this. One person company is derived from the concept of sole proprietor only. As per the new Companies Act, we can say we have replaced the term sole proprietor, and we have introduced a new term, one person company, under the Companies Act 2013. It's a new term which replaced the old term sole proprietor.
Thank you, ma'am. Uh, Still we are waiting, maybe few students who are very curious to know about something related to law or future. They are looking forward into law also.
Yeah, even yes, there is one more question we can see over here. Ma'am, what is the requirement for an Indian company to operate abroad? One, then do they need to form a company in the destination company, or will the Indian company be able to manage the new foreign operations? If yes, where will the income tax be paid?
See, if you will be operating in another country, first of all, you have to follow the rules provided by that country. We cannot follow, take our Indian laws and go and set our company in another country. We cannot. We have to follow the rules and regulation norms provided by that country. And after that, income taxes also be paid as per the rules of that country. If that, first of all, that country is allowing us to set up our business or not. It's not easy to take our company and set up there. No, we have to follow the rules and regulation, take the permission from the government. Then, as per their rule book, their Companies Act, we have to fulfill their requirement, and then we will be able to start our business there.
And more questions are coming.
Yes.
One is by Ishita Gupta. What to do if we have signed a contract with the buyer, but we become insolvent?
See, insolvency, it's an exemption provided under the Contract Act. If I have signed a contract with another person, and before fulfilling my contract I got insolvent, it is an exemption which will be granted by the Contract Act to me, because I am unable to fulfill my contract. So I will get exemption under the Contract Act if I became insolvent. So no legal liability raised upon me. I have to like pay certain, like, because the another person, because of my insolvency, they have bear losses, so I will have to compensate that person, but I will get time, because insolvency is another legal aspect or legal exemption for me, because and as per the Contract Act.
And one last question by Arjun Adash. If an Indian branch wants to open another branch in foreign countries, what all are the legal formalities to be followed?
See, legal formalities depends upon the foreign country. We can say if they want minimum investment there, if they want us to like the time, we can say legal formalities. First of all, who if they first they are permitting our business, is the as per their rule book, our business is legal there or not. First of all, we have to see that. Another one, again, registration as per their country law. Then licensing, again, see, basic criteria same only. License ho gaya, labor laws as per their country, legal formalities. If they want, certain countries have this criteria also, that we have to take one person from that country only to make the partner, and then they will allow us to run our business. So these are the basic liabilities or requirement, but we have to follow their company's laws.
I think most of the questions has been raised. Okay, one more question by Vaibhav Gupta. Is it legal for a company to get a contract signed by the employees for a particular tenure? Is it
Yes,
legal
it's
for
legal.
them?
It's always depends upon the employer will, whether they want a legal contract with the employee or not. It's a good, if you are an employer, you have to make a contract with your employee. It will provide a protection to the employee as well as employer in terms of both sides.
One more question. What all are the provisions to initiate if any wrongful act is done by any partner of the firm?
See, if any partner take to do any wrongful act in the business, so that person will be liable, punishable under the Companies Act. He has to be removed from the partnership, and then we can file a legal suit against that partner, and that partner will be liable for the wrongful act done by him. Suppose a partner suppose a partner misappropriate the funds of the company without informing another partners, he has to pay, or he has to pay the fine and bear the losses raised by him.
I think all the questions of the students have been handled. So I think very enriching and wonderful session, ma'am.
Thank you
So
so much, ma'am.
we can move towards the end of the session by proposing a vote of thanks. So on behalf of Complete Amity School of Business, it is my privilege to propose a vote of thanks for today's session. So I would like to thank you, ma'am, for sharing your valuable time and imparting a knowledge and reflecting lights on legal essentials for growing business in a very simplified way. It was really an enriching session and provided all of us a great insights in the field of business laws. I hope the students will definitely get benefited from today's sessions. So a special thank to Yashika Jain also of Section A, who have put up her efforts in organizing this guest session. Lastly, I would like to thank all our participants, attendees here, for their patience and active listener throughout this session. With this, we comes to the end of the session. Thank you very much, ma'am,
Thank you so much, ma'am.
for accepting our invitation.
Thank you so much.